how are all of you today? Maniakes here? No, I'm Phil. But this is the Maniakes channel, all about the incomparable Roman general, usurper, almost emperor. I'm working on a historical fiction, a what-if book based on Maniakes, and I've got some excellent information from some viewers. Although there'll be more on that in later videos. There's a couple people that I was going to actually ask to come talk for all of us and all of our benefits. But right now, this video is a compilation of stuff from my other channel, Fizabo 2, History and Culture, that I was going to put. See, as I'm researching stuff with Maniakes, I come through a lot of other medieval characters and from his time period. So debating, should I put them on, which channel I should put them on. So I'm mixing it up a little bit. So I'm putting the individual episodes up on Fizabo 2, and the compilation, the long form of all these different characters and what I put together will be here on Maniakes. And I'll probably do another playlist for Maniakes time periods, because I have one for the life of Maniakes, and I'll do one for Maniakes time period, and we'll go from there. I'll be sending out some emails to. I'm sure the viewers and subscribers that I will be hopefully talking to for you in the future, or watching and already know that I'll be contacting them shortly, because there's all kinds of great information that's come out. We're at what, 34 subscribers or something like that. Great. I hope you guys truly like what I'm trying to do here and have seen some of the growth. Also, I know I've been laxed on putting all my sites and stuff up. I'm doing a lot of work. Everything is cited. I should just go ahead and start adding those into the descriptions of the videos already done. And now that I have a template for everything, it should be a lot easier just to put them out in the videos in the future, as you'll see below in this one. Remember to like and subscribe if you enjoy Maniakes. Share this and comment. Please comment. Let's talk about it.
When this ruler died, his lands would remain divided for over 400 years before creating the modern nation-state of Spain. Alright, King Sancho, the great master of majestic Iberia, died in 1035 AD. Leading to 444 years of a divided Christian Hispania. Iberia, a land sculpted by sun and wind, where rugged mountains pierce azure skies and rivers carve timeless paths through plains shimmering with golden light. From the Pyrenean passes and valleys, where the ancient kingdom of Pamplona nestled amidst formidable peaks, rose a king whose ambition mirrored the grandeur of the landscape itself. Sancho III Garces, known to us now as Sancho the Great. That he surely was. He was a force of nature, his strength seemingly drawn from the very stone of his Navarrese homeland. His gaze, sharp and far-reaching, swept across the diverse realms of Christian Iberia. He saw not just disparate counties and fledgling kingdoms, but the potential for a unified Christian realm, a bulwark against the sophisticated caliphates and taifas of Al-Andalus, glittering to the south. With masterful strategy, a blend of shrewd diplomacy, strategic marriages, and undeniable military might, he extended his influence like the vast Iberian sky. Castile's high plains, Aragon's rugged valleys, the Pyrenean counties of Sobrarbe and Ribagorza, all were drawn into his orbit, bound together into a powerful tapestry woven by his singular, commanding will. For a brief, brilliant epoch, he stood as the preeminent Christian ruler on the peninsula, a king whose power resonated from the Bay of Biscay to the borders of Leon and Barcelona. Yet even the most monumental reigns faced the twilight. When Sancho the Great died in 1035, the powerful threads of his woven kingdom loosened, dictated by the ancient Navarrese custom of dividing inheritance. The sublime vision fractured. The singular crown was broken into pieces, bequeathed to his 4 sons. Garcia received the ancestral lands of Pamplona. Ferdinand inherited Castile, newly elevated to a kingdom. Gonzalo took counties Sobrarbe and Ribagorza, and Ramiro gained the territories that would one day become powerful Aragon. The seeds of a united Christian Iberia were scattered, giving way to sibling rivalries and divergent paths. The focused momentum of the Reconquista, once seemingly poised under Sancho's hand, dissipated as separate kingdoms pursued their own destinies, while the beauty and power of Al-Andalus continued to shine in the south. Sancho's dream of unity, though ultimately ephemeral in his lifetime, left an indelible mark, the echo of a formidable king whose ambition once held the majestic, multifaceted land of Iberia within its grasp. He remains a towering figure, etched into the stone and memory of the peninsula, a testament to strength, vision, and the complex fate of kingdoms. In 1469, Iberian monarchs Ferdinand and Isabella wed. 1479. After Isabella won a succession war for the rule of Castile, the 2 kingdoms unite into the Kingdom of Spain in a medieval monarchical dynastic sense. 1716, Castile and Aragon fully reunite into centralized Kingdom of Spain in an administrative and political sense, ultimately reviving the achievements of the great King Sancho, the Third Garces.
Cnut I assumed the English crown and began to rule a huge North Sea maritime kingdom. Through ruthlessness and military prowess, Cnut's invasion and subsequent war were concluded after a series of 5 battles. Then the great King Cnut took control of England and much of the British Isles. The 5 battles: Pencilwood, Tristan, Brentford, Otford, Assundan,
In the early 11th century, the Byzantine Empire faced numerous challenges on its eastern frontiers. The city of Edessa, a significant stronghold in the region, had long been a focal point of conflict between the Byzantines and their Muslim neighbors. The city's strategic location made it a coveted prize for both sides. Edessa fell out of Byzantine control in the late 10th century during a period of internal strife and external pressure. The city was captured by the Hammedanid Emirate, a Muslim dynasty that ruled parts of northern Syria and Mesopotamia. Over time, the control of Edessa shifted to various local rulers, including Kurdish chieftains who established their dominance in the region. According to Sellos, Maniakes was 3 meters tall.
Here's an example of a witty epigram by Christophoros of Mytilene. The mice have eaten my books, the owl my sleep. Such is the lot of a scholar who lives in a heap.
George Maniakes, born in the early 11th century, emerged as one of the most formidable generals of the Byzantine Empire. Historians generally view George Maniakes as a brilliant but ultimately tragic figure.
George Maniakes was at that time commander of the Teluch theme. The defense of Teluch in the year 1030. Strategist George Maniakes was tasked with defending the fortress of Teluch, modern Juluk, on the Anatolian-Syrian border. The fortress was strategically important as it controlled the passage between Anatolia and Syria. Maniakes, known for his military acumen and leadership skills, successfully repelled a series of attacks by the Madazid forces. His defense of Teluch demonstrated his ability to organize and motivate his troops, as well as his strategic foresight in fortifying the fortress and anticipating enemy movements. Tactical knowledge and prominent figures. The defense of Teluch showcased the importance of tactical flexibility. A defense of Teluch highlighted the value of strong fortifications and well-coordinated defensive strategies. "800 Arabs returning from the rout came to him all puffed up with pride and ordered him to surrender as soon as possible and abandon the city as the emperor was taken and the entire Roman army completely destroyed. He need not deliver himself into such obvious danger. As soon as day broke, he and those with him would be encircled and mercilessly destroyed." George made pretense of accepting their warning and doing as he was told. He sent a plentiful supply of food and drink out to them, telling them to rest a while, for at daybreak he and those with him would surrender themselves and make the Arabs masters of Teluch together with all the money of the Romans. Deceived words and deeds and expecting to receive everything on the morrow, they gave themselves up to drinking and drunkenness, passing the night without the least concern or provision for their safety. But in the middle of the night, when they had drunk well and were sleeping without a care in the world, George attacked them and slew them all. He captured 280 camels fully laden with all kinds of Roman goods. He cut off the noses and ears of the fallen and sent them to the emperor in Cappadocia, for after his flight he had arrived at the estate of Phocas and was residing there. In approval of what he had done, the emperor designated him Catapan of Lower Media.
the Manavlatoi, to counter the devastating charges of enemy heavy cavalry, particularly armored cataphracts. The medieval Roman army employed specialized heavy infantry, known as Manavlatoi. Their name derived from their primary weapon, the Manavlian, or Manalian. This was a stout, heavy spear, or pike, likely measuring between 9 and 12 feet long, significantly thicker and heavier than standard infantry spears. Basically Maniakes tall. Well, according to Sellos, the Manavlian was tipped with a sharp 20-inch spearhead designed to penetrate armor and deliver enough stopping power to halt a charging warhorse or impale its heavily armored rider. According to key military treatises like the 10th century Precepta Militaria, Manavlatoi were deployed at the very front of the main Byzantine infantry line when anticipating a heavy cavalry assault, with mixed spear and archer ranks for different tactical situations.
The Omen dashed in the bowl of bronze, the drops with voice prophetic rang, and echoing my wanting ear, 'twas love afar, they sang. Since then I feel thy heart is mine, but thou hast yet to prove, wrapped in my arms the livelong night, thy very, very love. Then will thy troth be plighted sure, then may the toping gang, with all their fortune-telling gear of brazen bowls, go hang.
Stories of the steppe, these whispers in the wind, persist in the psyche of man. Conquerors, scoundrels, butchers, and khans, all with a role to play. Today I relay a story of a Khan who wouldn't play but act. He rolled the dice and saved his people from annihilation at the hands of the Mongol hordes. I speak of Kun Khan Khotan of the Kipchaks. I penned a brief story relating the heroic leading of his people to salvation in the Kingdom of Hungary, to his tragic end at the hands of hysteria during the Mongol invasion. Khan Khotan, an underappreciated figure to the pens of history, found ears for his whispers winding through time and a voice to bring him back to life. Here now, the wind whispers tales across the endless plains, tales of the Kipchak, the Cuman, the people of the horse. Not an empire of stone and kings, but a realm woven from the strength of tribes, a tapestry of clans beneath the vast indifferent sky, a constellation of leaders, each a star in their own right, their brilliance waxing and waning in the dance of power. Khotan, Khotan, a name that echoes like thunder across the grasslands, a leader forged in the crucible of conflict, his authority not etched in marble, but earned in the clash of steel, in the shrewd weaving of alliances. Picture them, the Kipchak, the Cuman, astride their magnificent steeds, masters of the bow. Their lives a symphony of movement, following the rhythm of the seasons. Their homes the felt tents that dotted the horizon like scattered stars. Pastoral nomads they were, their wealth measured not in gold, but in the health of their herds, in the swiftness of their horses, in the loyalty of their kin. Their culture, a vibrant mosaic, threads woven from the traditions of many peoples who called the steppe home. A rich heritage, a testament to their adaptability, their resilience, their enduring spirit. Their domain, a fluid expanse, a realm defined not by rigid borders, but by the reach of their influence, by the sway of their name. A vast territory, stretching from horizon to horizon, yet their grip was light, their control more akin to the wind shaping the sand dunes, ever shifting, ever changing. And then, a shadow fell across the steppe, a darkness spreading from the east, the rumble of hooves, the chilling cry of the Mongol horde. Khotan, wise and far-seeing, he had felt the tremor of the earth. He had seen the storm gathering on the horizon. He knew the old ways were no match for this new terror. And so he made a choice, a desperate gamble, a plea for survival. He led his people westward, seeking refuge in the land of the Hungarians, a pact sealed with promises and hope. But fate, as it often does, played a cruel hand. Betrayal, a viper in the bosom of trust, struck Khoten down. A senseless act, a tragedy born of fear and misunderstanding. His blood spilled on foreign soil, a sacrifice made in vain. The dream of sanctuary shattered, leaving his people scattered, adrift in a world consumed by chaos. Yet, even in tragedy, the human spirit did not break. Though their leader was gone, their legacy lived on. They mingled with the Hungarians, their blood mingling with the Magyar, their language leaving its imprint on the tongue of their new home. They became part of the tapestry of Hungary, their strength, their resilience, their horsemanship, woven into the very fabric of the nation. Khoten's story, a tale of courage and desperation, of hope and betrayal, is a reminder of the tumultuous times, the shifting sands of power, the challenges faced by those who lived on the edge of the world. He was a leader, a warrior, a visionary, a man who dared to make a difficult choice in the face of overwhelming odds. His name, and the name of his people, the Kipchak, the Cuman, will forever be etched in the chronicles of history, a testament to their enduring legacy, their indomitable spirit. Listen to the wind, and you will hear their whispers, carried on the breath of the steppe, a song of survival, a song of the Cuman. Death of King Cnut the Great, continuing a short series set in 1035 AD Christendom. This year saw another great warrior king take his last breath, King Cnut the Great. In my Truth About Colonial Linden presentations, I include 2 episodes on the Winans family. This Elizabethtown family goes back to the original associates, as well as were among the founders of my city of Linden, also were descendants of Cnut the Great. You can check it out there, there's plenty more there. Link in the description. Cnut's death led to the disintegration of his empire. His domains were disputed among his sons. Harthacnut, son of Cnut and Emma of Normandy, inherited Denmark, Magnus of Norway. Well, he liked summers there, and wasn't afraid to let Harthacnut know as much. There will be more during story time. Harold Harefoot, Cnut's illegitimate son with Elf Gifu of Northampton. Let's say right place, right time of guy. Must have been the rabbit foot around his neck. Svein Knutson, another son with Elfgifu, had ruled Norway as Cnut's regent, but Olaf's son monikered the Good was really good at revenge. My name is Indigo Montoya. Emma of Normandy, Cnut's widow and queen. Listen or watch and find out. If you are enjoying this kind of content, a like, subscribe, share, comments very much. Tell the story of the death of King Cnut the Great and the story of the immediate dissolution of his realm. The Fractured Serpent, Cnut's Legacy Undone Part 1. The King is Dead, November 1035, Chapter 1. The passing of the Emperor, the year 1035, drew to a close under a chill November sky. In the ancient town of Shaftesbury, nestled in the rolling hills of Dorset, a giant lay dying. Cnut the Great, King of England, Denmark, and Norway, master of a vast North Sea empire, forged through conquest and cunning statecraft, felt his immense strength finally failing him. The man who had commanded armies, navigated treacherous politics, and famously demonstrated his piety by showing the limits of earthly power against the relentless sea, was now succumbing to the one force no ruler could conquer. On November 12th, the king breathed his last. The exact ailment remains unrecorded, lost to the mists of time, but the impact was immediate and profound. A hush fell over Shaftesbury, soon to ripple outwards across the lands Cnut had bound together. Word traveled fast. The Emperor of the North was gone. His body, as befitted a king of England, was prepared for its final journey to the royal capital, Winchester. There, in the old minster, he would be laid to rest among the Saxon kings he had both conquered and respected. Yet, whispers followed the funeral cortege. Some claimed Cnut's heart, that vital core of the man, remained behind in Shaftesbury, perhaps enshrined in a vessel near the abbey's high altar. A symbolic anchor in the land he had ruled for nearly 2 decades. Whether truth or lore, it spoke to the presence Cnut commanded, a presence that even death could not entirely erase, though his empire was about to prove far more fragile. Chapter 2. The heirs and their positions. As Cnut's life ended, the intricate web of his empire immediately began to fray. The key players, scattered across his domains, found themselves thrust into a sudden, dangerous power vacuum. Harthacnut in Denmark, Cnut's legitimate son with the formidable Queen Emma Harthacnut, was leagues away in Denmark. Designated heir to both Denmark and England, he was already acting as king in his Danish realm. His attention, however, was not on the English succession, but on the looming threat to his north. Magnus Olafsson, son of the Saint Olaf whom Cnut had overthrown, was consolidating power in Norway and casting hungry eyes towards Denmark. Yowed and burdened with securing his Danish inheritance against Magnus, Harthacnut could not simply abandon his post. England, for the moment, would have to wait. He was the chosen heir, yes, but geography and military necessity held him fast in Scandinavia. Harold Harefoot in England. Cnut's elder, illegitimate son with Elf Gifu of Northampton, Harold, was in England. Known for his speed, earning him the nickname Harefoot, he was ambitious and, crucially, present. While Cnut had favored Harthacnut, Harold saw his chance. With his legitimate half-brother preoccupied, and his father gone, the English throne seemed within grasp. He likely had supporters among the nobility, perhaps those less connected to Queen Emma's faction, and potentially the lingering influence of his mother, Elfgifu, even if she was currently abroad. He was the man on the spot, a powerful advantage in uncertain times. Svein Knutsson in Norway. Harald's full brother Svein had been Cnut's regent in Norway, ruling alongside their mother Elfgifu. Their rule had been harsh and unpopular, and the resurgent Norwegian nationalism coalescing around Magnus the Good had recently swept them aside. At the exact moment of Cnut's death, Svein was likely either in flight, perhaps back towards Denmark, or had already met his end in the Norwegian turmoil. His claim, already weakened by his ousting, was effectively nullified. He was a casualty of the shifting power balance even before his father's death. Emma of Normandy in Winchester. Cnut's widow, Queen Emma, a veteran of political maneuvering through 2 royal marriages, was in the royal centre of Winchester. She immediately moved to secure England for her son, Harthacnut. She held the royal treasury and commanded significant loyalty, particularly in Wessex. She possessed Cnut's alleged promise that only a son born of their union would inherit England. Emma represented continuity and legitimacy, rallying powerful figures to her cause. Earl Godwin in Wessex. Perhaps the most powerful nobleman in England, Godwin, Earl of Wessex, was a man Cnut himself had raised high. Cunning, influential, and deeply embedded in English politics, Godwin initially threw his considerable weight behind Emma and Harthacnut. This was likely a pragmatic choice. Supporting the legitimate, designated heir seemed the surest path to stability, and aligning with the Queen, holding the purse strings in Winchester, was strategically sound. But Godwin was, above all, a survivor. His loyalty would always be measured against the shifting political winds. Magnus the Good in Norway. Far from the immediate drama in England, but central to the Scandinavian equation, was Magnus. Having reclaimed his father Olaf's throne from Cnut's regent Svein, Magnus now represented a direct threat to Cnut's legacy in the north. His very existence tied up Harthacnut in Denmark, preventing the legitimate heir from claiming England, and thus indirectly enabling Harald Harefoot's ambitions. Magnus wasn't just seeking revenge. He was restoring Norwegian independence and eyeing Cnut's Danish crown. The stage was set. The binding force of Cnut's authority was gone, and his empire, built across disparate kingdoms, was poised to fracture along the lines of ambition, legitimacy, and geography. The Unraveling Thread, a Ghost View Chapter 3. The Empty Throne of England, Mystified I Stand. Afloat. Watching I am, the threads of Cnut's empire fray and snap. So fast a demise the threads would not loosen through the emperor of the North Cnut's heirs, lacking any semblance of goodwill. They will face intrigue and enemies from common foes alone, and make foes of family for one's own. I see Harald Harefoot in England, perhaps initially uncertain, but quickly buoyed by opportunity. He moves swiftly, his fleetness of foot more than just a hunter's trait. He confers with northern lords, men less tied to Emma's Wessex power base. Whispers of his mother, Elfgifu, returning from her disastrous Norwegian regency, add weight to his faction. He doesn't demand the crown outright, not yet, but positions himself as the capable son present, ready to maintain order while Harthacnut tarries. Meanwhile, in Winchester, Emma radiates regal authority, yet a current of anxiety runs beneath it. She sits amidst the royal horde, a queen defending her absent son's birthright. Messengers are dispatched frequently, carrying urgent pleas across the North Sea to Harthacnut. Come, claim your kingdom. But the replies, if they come, speak of delays, of the Norwegian threat. Desperate, she perhaps even sends word across the channel to Normandy, to her forgotten sons from her first marriage, Alfred and Edward. Could they help secure the throne for their half-brother? In his Wessex estates, Earl Godwin watches, listens. He stands beside Emma, his counsel seemingly loyal. But I see the calculations behind his eyes. Harthacnut is legitimate, yes, but absent. Harold is present, ambitious, and gaining traction. Stability is paramount, but so is Godwin's own power. His support for Emma holds, but it is contingent on Harthacnut's swift arrival. Across the water, Harthacnut paces the halls of his Danish court. He feels the pull of England, the weight of his father's designation. But the specter of Magnus looms large. Armies must be mustered, alliances secured. He cannot risk losing Denmark while reaching for England. Perhaps he negotiates with Magnus, seeking a truce, a temporary understanding, anything to free his hand. But time slips away. Chapter 4, the Regent and the Queen, the Great Council, the Witan, convenes. I hover above the gathering of bishops and nobles, the air thick with tension. Harold's supporters argue for decisive action. Emma's faction preaches patience and loyalty to Cnut's will. A compromise emerges, fragile and fraught. Harold Harefoot is named Regent of England. He will rule, but not yet as king. Emma is granted authority over Wessex, holding it in trust for Harthacnut, retaining control of the vital royal treasury in Winchester. It is a division meant to placate both sides, but it satisfies neither. England is split. As regent, Harold uses his authority shrewdly. He builds his court, rewards supporters, and subtly undermines Emma's position outside Wessex. He is the acting ruler, his power growing daily, while Harthacnut remains an abstract promise. In Winchester, Emma's desperation deepens. The regency compromise feels like a slow defeat. Her grip on Wessex is firm, thanks largely to Godwin's continued, if perhaps cooling support. Then, a response from Normandy. Her son, Alfred Etheling, will come. Chapter 5, Betrayal and Exile. The arrival of Alfred Etheling in 1036 is a catastrophe. I watch as his ship lands, his hopes high, only to be met not by his mother's allies, but by hostile forces. Who gave the order? Suspicion falls heavily on Earl Godwin, perhaps acting on Regent Harold's behalf, or perhaps seeing Alfred's arrival as a destabilizing threat to his own plans. Alfred is seized, brutally blinded, and dies soon after from his wounds. The act sends shockwaves through the kingdom. Whether Godwin was directly responsible or merely complicit, the outcome serves Harold's interests perfectly. He uses the incident to discredit Emma, perhaps suggesting she recklessly endangered her son, or even implying darker motives. For Godwin, the event marks a decisive shift. His path is now irrevocably tied to Harold. He cannot afford for Harthacnut or Emma to return and investigate Alfred's fate too closely. His support for the queen vanishes. Isolated, grieving, and politically broken, Emma sees her power evaporate. In 1037, facing threats and stripped of her authority, she flees England, seeking refuge in Bruges, Flanders. The formidable queen is exiled. With Emma gone and Harthacnut still absent, the regency becomes untenable. Harold Harefoot is acclaimed and crowned King of England in 1037. He stands triumphant, having seized his father's richest kingdom through circumstance, patience, and ruthless opportunism. Chapter 6. Scandinavia's shifting sands, while England crowns a new king, the northern powers recalibrate. Harthacnut, finally having neutralized the immediate threat from Magnus, perhaps through a formal treaty where they agree that whichever king dies first, the other shall inherit his kingdom, now turns his full attention to England. He gathers a fleet, spurred by his mother Emma's arrival in Bruges, burning with indignation at Harold's usurpation and the murder of Alfred. Magnus the Good consolidates his rule in Norway. He watches Denmark, perhaps content for now with the treaty, knowing Harthacnut's focus is elsewhere. The North Sea Empire is effectively dead. Norway is independent. England has its own king, and Denmark stands alone under Harthacnut. And Svein Knutsson? He is a ghost even to me now, vanished from the stage, presumed dead amidst the Norwegian chaos he and his mother helped create. The Empire Cnut, built in less than 2 decades, has disintegrated in under 2 years. England and Denmark are separate. Norway is free. The resolution, however, is merely a pause before the next act of vengeance and reclamation. Part 3. The Final Reckoning. A Ghost's View, Chapter 7. The Passing of Kings and Queens. My spectral gaze turns to the final acts of these intertwined lives, witnessing the ultimate fate that awaits all, from king to earl. I revisit Cnut the Great. As my life ebbed away, I must say not I. Cnut ever thought in Shaftesbury that November day in 1035? Was it a sudden illness or a slow decline? The records are silent. So spectre of me silent, he will be but some events I may relay in, that you may rely found from following eyes. My body travels to Winchester, as king I be laid to rest, my legacy I must lament. My greatness, my tact, my iron will with honor I attest. Such a man gone too chosen by the Father this year. My death was the catalyst, the removal of the keystone that brought the arch of my empire, the North Sea Empire crumbling down. Svein Knutsen, Cnut's co-ruler of Norway, fades from view around the same time, likely dying in 1035 or 1036. Did he fall in battle against Magnus's forces, succumb to illness during his flight, or simply disappear into obscurity? His end remains shrouded, a footnote to the collapse of his father's northern ambitions. Harold Harefoot's reign is unexpectedly brief. I see him in Oxford in March 1040, struck down by a sudden, mysterious illness. Rumors, perhaps unfounded, might have whispered of poison, but no proof exists. He dies just as Harthacnut's invasion fleet is finally readying to sail. His swift rise is matched by a swift end. He is buried in Westminster, a king for a fleeting moment. Harthacnut arrives in England in June 1040, landing unopposed. His first act is one of grim vengeance. I watch in horror as he orders Harold's body dug up from its Westminster grave. The corpse is beheaded and flung ignominiously into a fen, later retrieved and thrown into the Thames. Harthacnut rules with a heavy, resentful hand, imposing harsh taxes. But his reign, too, is short. In June 1042, barely 2 years after reclaiming his throne, I see him attending a wedding feast in Lambeth. Raising a cup to toast the bride, he suddenly collapses, gasping for breath. A violent seizure, perhaps a stroke brought on by excessive drinking, claims him. He dies without regaining consciousness, the last Danish king of England. He is buried in Winchester, near the father whose empire he briefly inherited. Magnus the Good, having outlasted Harthacnut, peacefully adds Denmark to his Norwegian crown as per their agreement. He rules both kingdoms, briefly threatening England, but never invading. His end comes relatively young in 1047. Accounts vary. Some say illness, others a fall from his horse during a campaign. The Viking Age is truly waning. Earl Godwin, the great survivor, navigates the turbulent reigns of Harold Harthacnut and the newly restored Saxon king, Edward the Confessor, Emma's last surviving son by Ethelred. He remains the most powerful earl in England, his family's influence immense. His end comes during a royal feast at Winchester in April 1053. As I watch, he suddenly collapses at the high table. Did he choke, as some accounts claim? Suffer a stroke? Later stories would embellish this, suggesting he choked while protesting his innocence in Alfred Etheling's death years before. Whatever the cause, the great political player leaves the stage, his son Harold Godwinson poised to reach even higher. Finally, Emma of Normandy. She returns to England with her son Harthacnut in 1040. When he dies, she witnesses the ascension of her son Edward the Confessor. Yet, her relationship with Edward is cool. He perhaps never forgave her favoring Harthacnut or her deep ties to the Danish regime. She loses much of her political influence and lives out her final years relatively quietly in Winchester, a dowager queen watching the twilight of the era she had dominated for so long. She dies peacefully in March 1052, a survivor who outlived Cnut, all his sons, and the empire they fought over. She is laid to rest in the Old Minster, Winchester, joining her second husband Cnut and her son Harthacnut. The great North Sea Empire, born of Cnut's ambition and strength, dissolved rapidly upon his death, its fragments contested by his heirs and rivals. Within 17 years, all the major players, Cnut, his sons Harold, Svein, and Harthacnut, his rival Magnus, his powerful Earl Godwin, and his formidable Queen Emma, were gone, leaving England poised on the edge of yet another conquest.
You sold Belgian Waffles. You sold Belgian Waffles. You sold Belgian Waffles. Waffles, 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 waffles.
In the year 1031, the Byzantine Empire, under the command of the brilliant General George Maniakes, set its sights on the city of Edessa. This city, once a jewel of the Hellenistic, Roman, and Byzantine empires, had fallen into the hands of the Kurds. The Byzantines, determined to reclaim their lost territory, launched a meticulously planned campaign. Maniakes, known for his cunning and strategic mind, employed a blend of siege tactics and diplomatic maneuvers. He bribed the city's commander, Suleiman, to hand over part of the fortification walls. With this advantage, the Byzantines began their assault, using siege towers to scale the walls and battering rams to break through the gates. The defenders, though valiant, were overwhelmed by the Byzantines' superior tactics and equipment. The city's strong towers, once thought impregnable, fell one by one under the relentless assault. The Byzantines' archers and crossbowmen, positioned strategically, picked off defenders from a distance, weakening their resolve. In the end, the capture of Edessa was not just a military victory, but a testament to the strategic brilliance of General Maniakes and the unwavering spirit of the Byzantine soldiers. The city, once lost, was now reclaimed, and the Byzantine Empire's eastern borders were secured once more.
Maniakes was at that time commander of the Teluch theme. 800 Arabs returning from the rout came to him all puffed up with pride and ordered him to surrender as soon as possible and abandon the city as the emperor was taken and the entire Roman army completely destroyed. He need not deliver himself into such obvious danger. As soon as day broke, he and those with him would be encircled and mercilessly destroyed. George made pretense of accepting their warning and doing as he was told. He sent a plentiful supply of food and drink out to them, telling them to rest a while, for at daybreak he and those with him would surrender themselves and make the Arabs masters of Teluch together with all the money of the Romans. Deceived by his words and deeds and expecting to receive everything on the morrow, they gave themselves up to drinking and drunkenness, passing the night without the least concern or provision for their safety. But in the middle of the night, when they had drunk well and were sleeping without a care in the world, George attacked them and slew them all. He captured 280 camels fully laden with all kinds of Roman goods. He cut off the noses and ears of the fallen and sent them to the emperor in Cappadocia, for after his flight he had arrived at the estate of Phocas and was residing there. In approval of what he had done, the emperor designated him Capan of Lower Media.
He was not appreciated in his own country.
George Maniakes employed a combination of direct assault and psychological warfare.
The world of the medieval Romans. Quite exciting. In this video today, we're going to just jump into a little bit about the structure and the world that was medieval Rome. And I mean medieval Rome because they were Romans. I know it's a point of contention for some people. That's for another time. As far as the channel, if you like what I'm doing here and over at Maniakes, please like and subscribe, share, comment, correct me, add some information, ask some questions. Whatever. It's all good. But medieval Romans, what a hodgepodge world. Let's get to know the characters that we're dealing with before we get into the structure of Constantinople, the military and the political class, as well as some of the different kinds of troops. But as you'll see, a lot of that's going to be taken care of here in the Get to Know the Players section, as you'll see a lot of the different kinds of units come from different kinds of warrior cultures, especially in the instance of mercenary troops, styles of fighting, combat readiness, battlefield deployment. All these things would differ depending on the strengths and weaknesses and so forth. Medieval Rome is autocratic, and the emperor is the emperor. Just hodgepodge. Any of these groups at any time could be fighting with or against the Romans during the medieval period, except for one, the Varangian Guard. Call to the Emir. Ask for a truce now. I have done with fighting. Strong as the Roman, and may do you hurt. Straightway the Emir turned right away, in flight. Oh, those Vikings, rather Varangians. Here they are in 907, sieging Constantinople. But as early as 874, the Rus had been mercenaries for the Roman court. It wasn't until 988, and Emperor Basil II marrying off his sister Anna to Vladimir of the Rus, Christianizing them, with the Rus providing a reverse dowry of 6,000 troops to aid Basil II in squashing the several revolts that were occurring in the Roman Empire at the time. He liked them, and they stayed as his personal guard, loyal only to him. He couldn't have foretold, or nor any Varangian, for that matter, a first in popular culture that the Varangians, as of now, can lay claim to. A Varangian guard inside the Hagia Sophia etched this all too familiar carving. Though inscriptions from much earlier in time have been translated to mean essentially the same thing, this is the first time in syntax this all too common tag has been proven to have been used. It reads, Halfdan was here. Seriously, it reads, Halfdan was here. No shit. The Varangian Guard. The Varangians be like... Loyalty is all I know. So the other units that are going to be making up this late Roman medieval army are going to be some mercenaries. A lot of times are Lombards, it's been Normans, but definitely some Turks from time to time, and so forth. But the Varangians are the Emperor's Guard. They're a core stay. And since the reign of Basil II and Bulgaria's incorporation into the empire, they're starting to bring troops in. And then the two other places, you have your Roman troops that come from two major places. The Anatolian heartlands and along the borderlands. You get a lot of soldiers and generals and a lot of wealthy landowners just inland on the plateaus there with huge estates. A lot of money and a lot of troops and a very martial culture. Now, the other place, when it's in the empire, is Macedonia. Macedonian dynasty takes hold through one of the craziest stories ever told. Maybe I'll do that one day. I'm not sure. At times, the Byzantine Romans had quite the navy, but then there's other times, especially late in the Middle Ages, that they relied on foreign navies. Ships, early on in the agreement with Venice, Constantinople looked at it as if they were part of the empire again. Boy, they were wrong. But it does make for an interesting side story for everything else that's going on. The love-hate relationship between the Venetians and the medieval Romans. You have your Lombards, you have your Normans, you have your Seljuks, you have your Canaanids, you have your Fatimids, you have other Corsair pirates from North Africa, you have the Serbs, the Hungarians, the Cumans.
Byzantine hierarchy, military and political ranks. In the grand tapestry of the Byzantine Empire,
What do you want from me? We all know the Byzantine Romans were a dumpster fire at least half the time. And you thought this channel wasn't going to be funny?
in the grand tapestry of the Byzantine Empire, a complex and hierarchical system of military and political ranks was meticulously woven. These ranks ensured the efficient governance and defense of the empire. Let us embark on a journey through the roles and duties of these esteemed positions, drawing from historical sources that paint a vivid picture of this bygone era. Military ranks. Emperor, the supreme commander and sovereign ruler. The emperor's duties encompass strategic oversight of the entire empire and its military campaigns. The emperor also presided over important state ceremonies and religious events. Domesticos, commanders of large military units, often cavalry. The domesticos coordinated military operations and ensured the readiness and discipline of the troops under their command. Strategos, as the military governor of a theme, the strategos was responsible for the defense and administration of their territory. They organized local militias, oversaw fortifications, and implemented the emperor's directives. Tourmarches, subordinate to the strategos, the tourmarches commanded a tourma. Their duties included maintaining the morale and effectiveness of their soldiers, as well as executing orders from higher-ranking officers. Moirarch, leading a mora, the moirarch ensured the tactical deployment of their unit in battles and skirmishes. Kentarch, in charge of an infantry century, the Kentarch maintained discipline and training within their ranks. Hecatontarch, the leader of a cavalry century, responsible for the readiness and strategic deployment of their cavalry unit. Pentacontarch, commanding a unit of 50 men, the Pentacontarch focused on smaller, more agile operations. Tetrarch and Pentarch, leaders of small groups. These officers played crucial roles in maintaining close-knit unit cohesion and executing detailed orders. Decarch, commanding a group of 10 men, the Decarch ensured the efficiency and coordination of their small team. The Byzantine hierarchy. Political ranks. Emperor. Beyond military leadership, the emperor was the absolute monarch, making all crucial political decisions and overseeing the administration of the empire. Caesar. Often a junior co-emperor or the designated heir, the Caesar assisted the emperor and prepared for future rule. Despot. A title given to the emperor's sons and close relatives, holding significant influence and administrative duties. Sebastocrator, a senior title below the emperor. The Sebastocrator held considerable power and often governed large territories. Nobilissimus, a high-ranking noble title, indicating a person of significant influence and close ties to the emperor. Magistros, senior administrative officials responsible for various aspects of governance, including finance, justice, and diplomacy. Protospitherios, holding a high-ranking court title. These officials performed important ceremonial duties and advised the emperor. Pronatarios, Senior secretaries who manage the empire's vast bureaucracy and correspondences. Logothetes, senior financial officers overseeing the empire's economic affairs and fiscal policies. Strategos, in addition to their military duties, the strategos also handled administrative functions within their province. Turmarches, these officers assisted the strategos in both military and administrative tasks. Duk, dukes or provincial governors, managed larger regions and reported directly to the emperor. Combs, counts or regional administrators, handled local governance and implemented imperial policies. These insights are drawn from historical texts such as the Alexiad by Anakamene, a detailed account of Byzantine politics and military affairs, providing first-hand insights from the daughter of Emperor Alexios I. The Chronicle of John Skylitzes. Also known as the Madrid Skylitzes, this chronicle offers a comprehensive history of the Byzantine Empire. Byzantine Military Strategy by John Halden. This book delves into the tactical and strategic aspects of the Byzantine military. History of the Byzantine State by George Ostrogorsky, a comprehensive study of Byzantine political and military structures. These sources offer a window into the intricate world of Byzantine administration and military command, shedding light on the roles and responsibilities that sustain one of history's most enduring empires.
In late antiquity, the Roman Empire saw a shift from infantry being the focus to cavalry being the focus of its war machine. At this time, the cavalry was mostly filled in with Germanic tribesmen who entered the Roman Empire in exchange for military service, so much so that their styles of fighting actually helped to alter the focus from infantry to cavalry just as much as the battles with Sassanid Persia and the Huns, who also frequently mercenaried as horse troops for the Roman Empire during this period. By the Middle Ages, in Constantinople's Roman Empire, the majority of the Germanic troops were infantry and naval support. These were the Varangians, first made up of Rus. Over time, all kinds of Germanic displaced people, such as the Anglo-Saxons after 1066. But again, most of the Germanic troops in the Roman Empire in the Middle Ages are going to be infantry or naval in nature. Saddened, heading back to the Emir, they came across some Arab peasants with some very bad news. When asking the peasant where to find their sister, they were told to check a ditch. Back to the poem. There yesterday we killed some lovely ladies because they would not do the things we told them. They urged their horses and went off to the ditch. And many slain they found, bathed in their blood, of whom some had no hands, no heads, nor feet. Some had no limbs at all, and their guts out, not to be known by anyone at all. And this having beheld, dismay seized them. They took and poured on their heads dust of the earth. Wailings were stirred and mourning from their hearts. What hand join we to wail? What heap to weep? How recognize a limb to bring our mother? All fair sister, why unjustly slain? O brightest sun, why do you envy our fair sister?